In my discussions on religion, both in real life and on the internet, the question often comes back to my personal experience. What did you find when you were religious? What was it about religion that actually turned you off and caused your unbelief? Now, I could give a very sophisticated explanation for my unbelief, a very good, robust intellectual defense of my atheism. However, the ethics, the history, the philosophy, the science all came later. My unbelief began with a series of observations that I made about religion. These observations I later generalized and realized that they applied to all religions and rendered them all equally useless and equally false. I was raised in a particularly prosperous part of the world, in a particularly prosperous home, as a Sunni Muslim. Growing up, at the age of 11 or 12, I asked a very simple question to my elders, to my religious instructors, to my friends, and to my family, and I received no reply to this question to this day. My question was, why did God bother creating us in the first place? It seems quite a simple question. In fact, it's probably the most basic question you can ask about religion, yet I have received no answer to this question yet. Some of the people I asked came back with a very honest shrug. They didn't know, and they were honest enough to admit it. Some people told me that I was created in order to worship, that we were in fact slaves, and that God wanted us to worship Him, so He created us. Now ignore the implications that has on the concept of the individual, and ignore the ethical implications of this concept just for a second, and think about the implications it has on Allah. If, in fact, we were created to worship, that would imply that Allah needed us to worship Him, which would imply that He wasn't omnipotent and all-powerful since He needed something from us. It seemed to contradict with everything else I was taught about religion. The second explanation I received was that our creation was an act of mercy. God created us solely for the purpose of creating us, because He was merciful. Now, this explanation, on the surface, actually is a pretty good explanation. We live in a beautiful universe, on a beautiful planet, and life is great. If only there was a creator and no religion. If we were left to actually enjoy our lives, peacefully, without any dogma, if we could just sit in the sun, if we could laugh, if we could share, and if we could think freely, I would agree with this explanation. However, of course that isn't the case. Islam micromanages every aspect of your life. Allah tells us what kind of financial arrangements we can enter, what we have to spend our free time doing, what we can eat and what we can't eat, what we can drink and what we can't drink. Allah literally micromanages our life from the womb to the tomb. Furthermore, if you resist these instructions, as they are orders in fact, not instructions, you're burned in hell for eternity. You spend forever being punished for the fact that you had the audacity to actually try to enjoy the life that you were so mercifully granted in the first place. The way religion works contradicts this argument, and so I await a good explanation for this.
I make fun of people who are religious because I think they're fundamentally weak. But I want you to know that on a personal level, when it comes to believing in God, I tried.